stands for buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and systemize. You probably heard of the BRRRR method with the repeat at the end, but repeating and going back and doing what you did, what if you did it wrong? What if you could have improved? So we changed it to systemize, which is going back and systemizing each letter so that you're able to do it and repeat it and scale it the right way. The beautiful thing about the BRRRR method is you really only need two things. You need a distressed property and you need a lending source. You need a private money lender, a hard money lender, somebody out there that is willing to lend you money backed by real estate with a healthy return so that you're able to leverage other people's money and do this. When I got started, I thought I was gonna have to put 20% down on every single rental I bought, and I didn't make enough money to put 20% down on any rental, even the cheapest one out there. It was going to have to take me 5, 6, 7 years to save up enough money to put 20% down on one rental property, and that just wasn't gonna cut it for me. So after looking around, doing some research, and meeting my mentor, I discovered this method. So if you're looking to get in the game and start building long-term wealth through rental properties, this method is the best way to do it. There's nothing else like it out there. It allows for active income and passive wealth and tax sheltering all in one investment. So hopefully that gets you a little bit excited about it. And if you haven't heard me explain in a while, you haven't heard me explain because, like I said, I change it quite often. So buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and scale. Let's go over the method now. Distressed property, private lender, boom. Of course, there are more nuances, so make sure you're subscribed. Hit the notification bell so when I do these more, you get notified when I go live. When we release videos, you get notified, and also you get notified when we have our podcast come out here. So let's go over a real life example. These are the numbers on my latest rental property that I bought. I got sent a distressed property that I could buy for $180,000. It needed about $35,000 worth of work. So I needed $215,000 to buy a distressed value add property and fix it up and make it rent ready. So I went to my private lender that I've worked with before, and he wrote me a check for exactly $215,000. I took $180,000 of that 3 days later and handed it to a title company and purchased this distressed property in all cash. Now, the property needed about $30,000 worth of work. I gave myself a little bit of fluff. It was in pretty good shape. So what I did, and I guess what my team did, and you will do if you're getting started, over the next, I think it took about 95, 100 days, over the next 3-ish months, we just wrote micro checks to contractors for labor and material. And then 95 days later, I had $215,000 of my private lender's money in a property that was fixed up and ready to get rented. So now the property is a happy house. It is not a distressed house. So what do I do next? I obviously owe my private lender $215,000. He's become a friend, but he doesn't just give me money. He gives me money and he expects a 10% annualized return on his money. So how do I get him his money without using any of my own money? Well, the next step you do is you get the property rented. You need to make it a cash producing asset. Banks will not lend you money, and nobody will lend you money on a property that's just sitting there vacant. You need to start to make it an asset that produces cash so you get the property rented. Now this one we actually rented out on a long-term basis. I believe this one's rented for $2,500, $2,600 a month, but you have options today that you did not have 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Right now, depending on the area and the property and your specific issue or your specific need, you can rent this out on a short-term basis, Airbnb, VRBO. It doesn't have to just go to a long-term 12, 24-month lease. There's more work. Not every municipality allows it. It's one of those things that not every situation requires it, but for the right situation, it is gold. You're going to cash flow a lot of money even at today's high interest rates. And a newer thing that's getting out in the space right now that we've been on for about a year and a half, 2 years is midterm rentals. You're able to take these properties and rent them out to traveling nurses, to corporate leases, to insurance claims. There are about 250,000 midterm rentals in the United States on Furnish Finder, which is basically a monopoly of midterm rentals. Everybody lists their midterm rentals there. But there are about 2 million traveling nurses that need midterm rentals. Some of them stay with family, some of them stay as extended stays, but there is a need for midterm rentals. And I'm not even talking about corporate leases or digital nomads, which is a growing phase right now in the economy with people being able to travel and move around. So those are two things that weren't around that long ago that allow you to cash flow. Because with this property, the cash flow is $2,500 a month. or that we get $2,500 a month in rent on, if I were to rent that out on a short-term basis, I would make about $7,500 a month. Now, there's some vacancy, there's some more expenses, so it's not the perfect situation for every house and requires a lot more work, but you get a lot more cash flow also. And on a midterm basis, I would be able to get about double the rent, so about $5,000 a month rent with some vacancy, with some pulled back. So short-term rentals, 50% of the time it's rented. Midterm rentals, 80% of the time it's rented. Long-term, it's rented 95% of the time. It's the highest occupancy. The tenants stay for a year, 2 years, but you get $2,500 a month rent. So you just got to pick and play depending on your current situation. So hopefully I didn't go down too much of a rabbit hole. If I did, let me know in the comments and I can clarify that to you, or we can talk on Instagram or something like that. So buy, rehab, rent, depending on what strategy you need. Now this is the most confusing part if I didn't already confuse you. This is the refinance step. This is where you take your rented, fixed up property to a small local bank. Not your Bank of America's, not your Commerce banks. These are your local community banks, and they will write you a check, which is shocking and surprising and all the things, or at least it was to me at first, for 80% of the appraised value. So this is a real property, and I'm rounding the numbers to like the nearest like 1,000, but it's really, really close to these numbers, the actual number. This property appraised, it was worth 300, bought it right and need a little bit of work, but it appraised for $280,000. So the bank literally wrote me a cashier's check for $224,000, which is insane. They handed me cash. A cashier's check is just like cash. I know that because I ripped up a cashier's check about 8 years ago and threw it in the trash thinking I was just like throwing a check away, and the bank said, no, you just threw away cash. And I had to take out like a $3,000 insurance policy, wait 6 months, and then get the money back to make sure it wasn't going to be cash somewhere. So don't do that. But they literally hand you $224,000 worth of cash. Now, you do owe them that in the form of a mortgage that the rent pays, however you collect it, every single month over 25, 30 years. So that way you're able to have a long-term note that allows you to cash flow, because you're not going to cash flow on a short-term private lender's note, and they don't want to hold it for 30 years. What do you think I did with that $224,000 check? Any guesses? Bueller. Took that and I paid back my private lender. So I don't think I ended up paying him $9 grand, depending on the time, it was more like $7, but let's just say I'd paid him $9 grand. So he made $9,000 on a $215,000 investment in about 95, 100 days. You don't think he was happy about that? So now he is happy. Everybody wins here. The house is happy and he's happy. Now, he's got his money back plus interest. He's paid off. He's ready to do another one with $225,000 now, not $215,000. He's ready to do this again because he's done it, dozens and dozens of times at this point. Now the only person that I owe money to is the bank. And I'm a good property manager, and I'm a landlord, not a slumlord, and I take care of my tenants, I take care of my properties, and I collect rent every single month, and I pay back the bank. Now before we get to Systemize and before we get you out of here, look what can happen. This is a $280,000 house. This is going to blow your mind. And I owe $224,000 on it. What is that math? That's going to be 6, that's going to be 5, is that 56, is that right? $56,000, I think that's right, worth of equity in one rental property I bought using none of my own money. I'm going to get a calculator out for this. So what happens in, no, you want to think you're good. What happens in 15 years? Well, real estate doubles in value every 15 years. It does. Look it up. All the stats will show you that it doubles in value every 15 years, usually more. So this is going to double in value, so this is going to be worth $560,000 at a minimum in 15 years. It may sound like I'm jumping to that. I'm not. I've done the research. A lot of the times it more than doubles. So $560,000, and this mortgage is going to be paid down by the tenant. Halfway through the mortgage, a lot of interest at first, so it's not going to be cut in half, which would be like 112, let's say. It gets paid down to maybe 120. So the difference in that now is what, 440? So your $56,000 worth of equity turns into $440,000 worth of equity in one rental property that you bought using none of your own money. Yes, this is hard. Yes, this requires energy and work and effort and risk and all the things. But the fact that you're buying real estate, it's going to increase your equity, increase your net worth. That is more than the average, not median. If you know the difference, you know the average is always higher usually when we're talking money, because it takes high income earners into account, that is higher than the average 401k and the average IRA at the age of retirement, which is scary in itself. The average IRA and 401k combined is about $340,000 at age 65. This is more than that. And this is one property in 15 years you bought using none of your own money. So you put a lot of effort into it, but it was very, very much worth it. And these are the things that they don't teach you in school. These are the things that you need to understand and comprehend. And that's why I have thousands of hours of content on social media for free that teaches you this. That's why I have 3 million followers on social media, because nobody teaches this, and I teach it, and I try to help you the best I can. Of course, I have a paid community that you can get into and be mentored and handheld and coached. A lot of people do that, but you don't have to. I would suggest you starting out by making sure you're subscribed to this channel so you get videos like this coming across your feed when I put them out, making sure you're following me on all social media platforms at Sam FasterFreedom, and in the link in the description is going to be a free training that you can watch that goes a little bit deeper into this, and you can schedule a call with my team after that. And after that, that's kind of where I come into play. Systemize, I don't know if I spelled that right, but systemize. This is when you can grow and scale this, when you have systems to every step so that you get better and more efficient every single time. And that's really where we come into play. We have systems. We buy 250 houses a year. We have $50 million in real estate. We have systems to make that all work. And when you're in my community, you get direct access to those systems. And I do my best to give them to you on social media and platforms like this, but I'm limited to what I can and can't do based on the platform and what it puts out. That's all I got for you today. I know it was a quick one. I appreciate you for being here. Share this with a friend if this blew your mind, if you think I talk too fast, if you think I look stupid, if you think that this isn't real or is real or you're excited about it, share it with a friend. Get their take on it. If you join with somebody and you have a path together, you're going to be much more successful because you're going to have somebody on your side. And of course, I would be glad to be on your side. So share this, subscribe, follow me on all platforms, and check out the description below for a few more free resources.